on this episode of the Sorority Chat podcast.
As a sorority member, one of the biggest things that we did was community service, and then the other was networking. And both of those things have served me so well as a marketing professional and as a business owner, because you can't do it alone. You have to learn how to not compete with others, but complement others. And I think, especially as a woman in business, sometimes we forget that there are so many other strong women who can bring things to our business that we can't.
Hey y'all, and welcome to Sorority Chat. I'm Liz Toombs, a designer and sorority alum who's obsessed with all things Greek life. My mission? To bring you real conversations, smart insights, and fun stories that help make sorority living even better. So grab your favorite beverage, get comfy, and let's chat. Welcome back, sorority chatters. Today's guest is someone I have known for over 20 years, and that's hard to believe. She might have the best job title ever. It is Keeper of the Lavender. Allison Horseman is the owner of Woodstock Lavender Co, a family farm in Pulaski County, Kentucky, where she is pioneering what it means to grow lavender in a not-so-lavender-friendly climate. With deep roots in agriculture, a background in community development, and a serious passion for plant-based products, she has turned a dream and a lot of persistence into a growing business and a destination. So let's get started. Hey, Al.
Hey, Liz. Thanks so much for having me.
I am excited to talk with you always, but this is such an official capacity for us.
I know, it is. We have to be serious, right? Or maybe not so serious.
I don't think so serious, but obviously we were only 2 when we met, since we've been friends for over 2 decades.
Absolutely.
Well, let's start with your title, Keeper of the Lavender. What does a day in the life for you look like running a lavender farm?
Oh, man. I think similar to all entrepreneurs, all business owners, one day is absolutely never the same. There are some days I may be making products. There are some days I may be cleaning out a barn. There may be some days I'm planting. There are some days I'm networking. It is absolutely all over the place. But we did decide to kind of go with the Keeper of the Lavender just because it's much more romantic than just business owner, right? So it makes it seem like the job is a joy, which it mostly is. But of course, as you know, there are always those days when you just have to do the things.
Yes, that's true. But you do seem to make it fun. It may not be as fun in real life, but I see the reels and the TikToks that you create when you're out there pruning the lavender, or you're, doing the schlepping and all the hard kind of sweaty work. And you can tell that there's joy behind it for you.
There is. I think, again, like with all businesses, you have to find the joy, no matter if you are doing the mundane tasks or really what you're doing. Because if you lose the joy, then why are you doing it? And so, I'm not afraid to laugh at myself. I'm not afraid to make a fool of myself. Now, if people were sitting there watching me, it might be a different story, but kind of behind the screen, I don't have any problems just having fun and showing people that we're not always super serious, and that the hard stuff is still hard, but you can find some joy in it too.
Yeah, I agree. There was a guest on previously, Megan Rosenthal, and we were talking about getting more comfortable on social media and realizing, sometimes you may feel silly, or, you just never know. You're kind of feeling like you talk out to this void, but there is a lot of fun behind it. And it's different than having folks watching you, just like you said.
It is. It's easy to kind of forget that even though I don't have, we don't have a ton of views, people are seeing you on these platforms. I was actually with my daughter at the Cincinnati Zoo, and I had a guy stop me and say, "Are you Allison from the Lavender Farm?" And I thought, oh my goodness, this is kind of crazy. But he was actually also a lavender farmer, and so he was following our stuff. And but I was surprised to be recognized in the wild, I guess.
That is funny. Now, do you feel like you've made it because you were recognized out in public?
Oh, no, but maybe one day.
So you're the fourth generation to live on your family's farm, but the first to grow lavender. And I feel like agricultural businesses don't get the press or the attention that some other types of businesses do. And so what inspired you to go this direction?
Mom and I like to say that this is a hobby that really got out of control. And I think that is 100% true. We never intended to run a business. But, when you and I were at the networking event a couple of years ago, they talked a lot about how dreams can shift and how that's okay. And I definitely think the lavender farm was a dream shift for me. It wasn't even something that I knew I wanted to do. I always loved agriculture. I grew up on a farm. We had a very traditional, corn, beans, cattle. We raised tobacco. I showed cows. I couldn't wait to get away from the farm, but I still appreciated the farm, I guess you could say. So when life sort of roundabout brought us close to home and on my grandparents' farm, I just felt this overwhelming need to do something to honor agriculture, to honor the way I was raised, to have my toe in it. I knew I wasn't going to be a traditional farmer. I didn't really want to run a combine. I didn't really want to mess with cattle. Those sorts of things. But I wanted to do something that I could be proud of and that my family would be proud of and that I could do on my own as a woman, as a mother. I was working outside of the home at that time. And I wanted to do something that would bring a little bit more meaning to my life. So lavender, I wasn't always a fan of lavender. I really didn't know much about it. I had probably only smelled fake lavender at that point, which sometimes people say, oh, I don't like lavender. And I think, well, you haven't smelled the real thing. But that's okay. So Mom actually had the idea to grow lavender, and we planted 50 plants. We had no idea what we were going to do with it. We just had our hands in the dirt, and that was what was important. A few years later, we sort of fell in love with it. We decided to venture out, host some people here on the farm. And then that's when the business was born. And it just absolutely took off from there. And although, I don't enjoy every day, the fact of the matter has been that we've been able to do what we set out to do, which was to tell our family's story, to be part of Women in Agriculture, to be business owners, to set our own schedules, to do really what we feel called to do, and to have our hands involved in every aspect of it. So now we have a brief but successful on-farm agritourism aspect to the business. And then we also make several dozen lavender products, plant-based products, and we're in about 40 stores throughout the U.S. So we're still very small, but we are doing something that is important. And I think we are sharing our story to people who come on things like this, just different ways that we can tell women, you can do this. You don't have to go all out. You don't have to invest a ton of money. You can do it if it's important to you, as long as you kind of keep your eye on the goal, which is what we were talking about, finding that joy, making sure you continue to do it for the right reasons.
Yeah. And I neglected to say, as I was introing you on the show, that this is a venture that you and your mom do together. And so you've alluded to that a little bit, but talk about that side of things, because now we're mixing family with business and there's a partnership and a mother-daughter dynamic. And so I'm sure that brings both challenges and benefits to the work.
Oh, absolutely. My mom she's amazing.
Agreed.
My mom, her name is Mary, and she was raised on this farm. And I think that is why it's so important to her to do this work. We have talked about, if I decided I didn't want to do it anymore, if she decided she didn't want to do it anymore, what would that look like for the business? And honestly, we don't know. But we work really well together. We balance each other very well. I'm a little bit all over the place with some ideas. And sometimes she reels me back in, and then sometimes she pushes me. So I think that while a lot of people say, how in the world do you work with your mom? It's pretty easy, honestly. She's so supportive. She and I both try to keep the end in mind. We try to think about why we're doing this. And we try to find the joy in it, like we were talking about before. And I think what a blessing to have paid tribute to our family together. Whether this business lasts another year or another 40 years, I think doing it together has probably been the biggest blessing of all.
I think that's really cool because you were talking about you grew up in farming but wanted to get as far away from it as possible. Your mom grew up on this farm. She became a teacher. So you both went very different routes initially to come back to it. And so that's fascinating to me, the way it's kind of pulled you back in and you have a desire to run it when you thought you really wanted to be away from it.
Oh, absolutely. This was never part of my plan. Even to live here was not part of my plan. And then, like a lot of mothers, when my first child came along, I thought, okay, I'm not really sure that I want to travel. I was working as a marketing professional for the University of Kentucky. Absolutely loved my job. Still miss it sometimes, but I wanted to do something that gave me a little more flexibility. So my husband and I ended up relocating to Somerset, and this house was empty. My grandparents had lived in it, and they were no longer here. And so we were going to very temporarily live here. But like we said, dreams shift, plans change. And when I got here, I felt like home. It felt like home. I could remember having tea with my grandmother under the tree. I could remember sitting out on the porch with my grandfather shucking corn. And I just thought, this is home. This is where I want to raise my kids. This is where I want to be. And we are kind of far, 25 minutes or so from town, and Somerset's not that big. So it has its disadvantages, but I think overall, the sense of family, the sense of legacy that we're giving our kids is more important than the distance.
Yeah, I would agree. You said you're working in marketing, and so I can see obvious ways that's beneficial as a business owner to have a background in marketing. Talk about your collegiate experience and your sorority experience for a second, and like what that was like, and if you see any of the skills or those experiences shaping what you're doing now.
Oh, absolutely. So I went to Georgetown College for my undergraduate degree. I majored in English and had plans to be a journalist, which I did start out as a print journalist in my professional career. Soon figured out that there wasn't a lot of money in that, and the future was shifting quite rapidly. So I also shifted to public relations and marketing. But I was a member of Kappa Delta sorority at Georgetown, and those were absolutely some of the best years of my life. I made some friendships that have lasted until now, and I treasure those very much. But I think as a sorority member, one of the biggest things that we did was community service, and then the other was networking. And both of those things have served me so well as a marketing professional and as a business owner, because you can't do it alone. You have to learn how to not compete with others, but complement others. And I think, especially as a woman in business, sometimes we forget that. We forget that there are so many other strong women who can bring things to our business that we can't. And then also community service, it is so important to give back, to find those things that you are passionate about and continue to give back in some way. And again, those things may shift. What was important to me as a 23-year-old recent college graduate is different than what is important to me now as a older person.
Older in quotes.
Older, yes. But it's still equally as important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. You do a lot, you're talking about your community. You do a lot to support other lavender farmers specifically, right? You will talk to them and coach them and share your experience and like the struggles of trying to grow lavender in Kentucky and everything you've learned. And so how does that network take shape for you, and like how do you advise those folks? Well,
we're 12 years in and still feel like a beginner. I think sometimes in any profession, we can doubt ourselves and we can doubt what we have learned and what we have to share. But we do get a lot of people. Lavender is very popular. A lot of people want to grow it. A lot of people have tried and failed. We have tried and failed. And so I think that instead of guarding knowledge, it's so important to share, because I think where would we be if there hadn't been those people who helped us along the way too? You know, one of my favorite quotes is, if you see a turtle on a fence post, you know it didn't get there by itself. And I just love that, because I think one of our main aspects of this has become, how can we support other women, especially, whether they're makers, whether they're growers, whatever they may be involved in, how can we support them? Even just sharing their posts, sharing their events, talking with them, telling them what's worked for us and what hasn't, giving them other resources that have been beneficial to us. We may feature other people in we do monthly or bi-monthly subscription boxes, and also holiday boxes. And we try to support other makers by purchasing their products and featuring them to our subscribers. And so I think that, along with the agriculture side, has become really important to us, because women for so long, especially in agriculture, have been the meal makers and the parts runners and those sorts of things. And that is absolutely just as important. But I think women are now stepping out and saying, I can do more for agriculture and as a business owner than maybe I've been given credit for in the past.
Yeah, I think that is an interesting shift and evolution in the industry.
Absolutely.
Is there anything unexpected that you've learned about lavender or yourself in the last 12 years going through this journey?
Well, I mean, when we started this, we did not know that Kentucky was such a bad place to grow lavender. Maybe if we'd done a little more research, but again, you know, like I was talking about, sometimes one of my fatal flaws is just jumping in without totally knowing what I'm doing. But then again, I think if I knew all of the things, I would never jump in. And so we definitely just jumped in, and sometimes we're scrambling to make it work. But I think one of the things that I have learned about myself is that I can't do it all. And that is sometimes a little bit hard to swallow, because I want to do it all. So there have been things that I've wanted to accomplish that I've just had to let go, and had to be okay with what I can do. And then, of course, you know, the lavender, I feel like we're learning every year. Something different happens. The weather shifts. We get too much rain. We get too little rain. It's so dependent on things that I cannot control. And so that is also a little bit hard to lesson to learn as well, because you can't control Mother Nature. But what you can control is your response and how you educate people, and then hopefully their response to whether you're growing lavender, whether you're growing corn, whatever, is that they appreciate the farm and the farmer maybe a little bit more than they did before they met us.
Well, and focusing on the things that you can control. I mean, I've come to the farm a lot, and I've watched you go from just growing lavender and maybe having cutting events and starting to do products. And now there's a store on site. And beyond that, now you've added a butterfly house, the little snack, what would you call it? Snack cafe?
Food truck things. Yeah.
And you've done a great job of seeking out grants to do that and just offer diversification on the farm. So yes, the lavender may be the initial draw, but there's a lot of other things going on. And so you're sort of thinking out of the box on that.
Yeah, we try to add something new every year, because, you know, humans get bored very easily. And so we do have to kind of try to keep it exciting. But then also, you know, the more we learn, the more we're interested in sharing that knowledge with others. I was completely ignorant about native plants and how important they are to our environment and to pollinators. And so the introduction of the butterfly house began as an idea for just butterflies, but it ended up educating us on native plants, butterfly species, different ways. And then we're able to share that knowledge with the visitors on the farm. And so I feel like that's giving back from the knowledge that we've gained as well.
Another way that I know that you give back is you bring in interns and seasonal workers and let them work alongside you. And so what are the ideal qualities there, or what type of person usually wants to come and work with you? Is it like that they're interested in agriculture? Is there a certain path that they're desiring to take and that makes them a good fit?
Yeah, I think most of the interns who have been successful here do have a passion for agriculture, but more than that, they are willing to learn and they are good with people. I think, although, we're a lavender farm, most people who visit us are very happy and they're very relaxed and they enjoy the experience. The interns and the employees who work in the summer realize how important it is that you put the customer first and that when they leave, they say, I enjoyed that experience. But not only that, there's a lot of other work that goes into, especially the summer, including weed pulling and painting and cleaning and taking out trash and all of the things. And so if they approach it with an attitude of, I'm here to do this one specific thing, then they're not going to enjoy the summer. So they have to really have an attitude of I'll try anything. And we always laugh and we say, your resume, no one else will have your resume. You can add plumber, you can add forklift driver, you can add all kinds of things to your resume after working here. And of course you have something interesting to talk about in job interviews. And our goal is that not only do they appreciate agriculture and diversity in agriculture more than they did when they started, but it's that they also gain some skills that they can take with them for life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the thing, is you're creating an environment where they can become a good team member. And it's not necessarily about the task. It's just about their willingness to try and learn and to support the rest of the team, which is valuable no matter what line of work you end up in.
Absolutely.
You were talking about the different reasons that people come out to the farm. Maisie Clark has been on the show recently, and she's done a couple watercolor classes out there with you, and I've come to that. What's on the horizon for events or expansions at the farm right now?
Well, we have our first ever Flight of the Butterflies event coming up on Saturday. It's the first one we've ever done. We're super excited about it. We have been wanting to be part of Monarch Watch for several years, and it's a national tagging program. And this time of year, all we have left in the butterfly house are monarchs. And so we are going to take those butterflies out, put a little tag on them, and let people release them so that they can make their migration. Hopefully they make it all the way to Mexico. Those tags can be recovered, put into a national database, and then people can track and see where their butterfly was found, if it was found, and how far it made it. So we're really excited about that. The butterflies have become a big attraction here. And then we're getting ready already for next June for lavender season. We've had a tough year for crop loss, so we've been replanting, and then we'll look forward to having people here again in June.
I have a suggestion for an event.
Yes.
Mahjong with only sets in shades of purple, different lavenders. Like have a Mahjong night. I'm obsessed with this game.
Okay, so I've never played, but I've been seeing it all over the place, and I'm thinking I need to learn.
You do need to learn because we need to play. And secondly, it's just beautiful. It's so aesthetically pleasing. You have these beautiful mats, the sound of the tiles. It's a really interesting way to think about things just once you learn the game. I couldn't even begin to try to explain it to you blindly, but it's really fun and people are enjoying playing it, and it really brings people together. And so there's a lot of events that will go on where they'll have several tables set up and people can come because you play in groups of 4. And so something like that would be a great event for you, just like you've done candle making and wreath making and all these other things. Like groups of friends could come out and play and be at the farm and enjoy hanging out in the barn.
Yeah, I love that idea. We'll add it to the list.
Yes, put it on the list. Check with me first, make sure I can come.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, well, if somebody is wanting to get into agritourism or starting a small farm, do you have a really good piece of advice you could share with them as they're going on that journey?
I think the main thing that I wish we had done first was to find an organization full of people who are doing something similar to what you're thinking. There are times when, even in Kentucky, I'll hear of someone who started a lavender farm and maybe they're having issues or those sort of things. And I think, oh, I really wish they had reached out to us first because we can help. And, if you're thinking about growing pumpkins, then find someone who is growing pumpkins in your state, in your region. Reach out to them with questions. If they don't want to answer your questions, find somebody else. Because there are plenty of people doing, we're not coming up with new ideas here. We're not reinventing all of the things. And so there are people who are willing to help other people. And if you hit a roadblock, reach out to someone else. And I think don't let all of the details sort of scare you away from trying something. If it doesn't work, you can always adjust your vision, adjust your dream, and sort of see what happens after that. I think it's more important to try than it is to not. So I think reaching out to like a professional organization, like we have the United States Lavender Growers Association, we would have saved ourselves 2 years of trials had we known about them and reached out to them first. So I think it's really important just to get that network of people who are doing something similar to what you're doing.
I agree. And to your point earlier about how you just sort of jump and, your mom kind of keeps you in line, there's some benefit to that, right? There's some benefit to being an inexperienced person in the field you're going into or in starting a business because it's just trial and error and there's less fear holding you back than if you have all of the knowledge and you're like, oh, this isn't how it's done. I think you tend to think outside of the box a little bit more. And so it may not be the worst thing to not know, but it is good to have resources.
Oh, absolutely. We tell a funny story about when we started making products. We made a bath salt and a sugar scrub, I think. We made them in my basement, which I didn't know at the time was illegal. And it was awful. Like the product was absolutely horrible. It's separated into 4 or 5 different layers. No way would I use it now. And I went to a friend who had a small shop in town and I said, if we're making these things, would you be interested in carrying them? And she said, oh, I would love to. Are you licensed? And I said, no. Didn't know I was supposed to be, and so she said, here's a contact. He will help you through the process. He'll help you figure out what to do, what you need. And had I seen that process before I approached her, I probably wouldn't have gone through it. But with her help, with her suggestion, we were able to get through that process. It did take some changes. It took some investment. It took some time. But it was well worth it, and it wasn't as intimidating as had I not, had that little bump from her.
Yeah, and it seems like her just saying, oh, call this person. It feels a little less intimidating than just out of the blue contacting somebody and saying, like, what do I do here? Because you feel like you're the green person. You don't know. You're like, oh, do I sound stupid asking these questions?
Oh, absolutely. I think having someone refer you to someone is just absolutely, it opens that door. No matter what your job is, no matter what your passion is. I mean, even in your business, having somebody to connect you to form that network makes the introduction easier, makes the feeling of trustworthiness much more comfortable for everyone, and it's just very important.
Yeah, I mean, that's fully how I've built my business, is networking and just connections and getting to know people. And I've realized this year how much this podcast is still doing that for me. Like, I'm really loving reconnecting with people that I've known for a while and maybe haven't talked to in a bit, and then also meeting new people. And it's been so fun to have these conversations and to build relationships, because there's so many new ideas that I've gotten and new opportunities that have opened up as a result of meeting new people.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, Allison, where can people connect with you if they're interested in learning more about the farm or your products and all the things that you're doing?
Yeah, so our website is woodstocklavender.com. We are on Instagram and Facebook. You can find us by searching Woodstock Lavender. And that's probably the best way to connect with us at this point. And then also we are, like I said, we're in about 40 different stores, but we're always looking for other partners, especially female-owned small businesses in the region, in Kentucky and Tennessee, Ohio, especially that region that's near to us. That way we can support each other and we can promote their business, they promote our business. And I think that's one of the biggest things we've learned is that even if you have a similar business, your audience is different, your goals may be a little bit different, and there is absolutely no need for us to compete with each other, but there is absolute need for us to respect each other and to really collaborate so that we're building each other up at all times.
Yeah, no, I think that is a very good piece of advice and perspective on business, that there's room for us all, collaboration over competition, which I think is like the Southern Seas motto. And you and I have been to that. And I think it's a really great mindset to have.
Yes, absolutely.
I will also tout one of your products. Your bug spray is my favorite. So folks, if you have a store and that jives, I highly recommend the lavender bug spray because I get eaten alive and I have bottles strategically positioned all over my home so that I can get it every time I go outside.
Yes, that's probably our number one selling, at least in the summer. And then, of course, we get a lot of people who buy it when they go to Florida in the winter because of the sand fleas and all that stuff. And then I will tout our gourmet lavender syrup. So I think I told you, but we've been picked up by Heaven Hill. So they're using it at both of their bars for their lavender drinks, their old fashions and things like that. So that's super exciting for us to partner with that bourbon industry here in Kentucky. And it's been featured by Keeneland. So we do a lot of sales in New York because of, I think because of all the horse people there. I don't know, but we ship out every week to New York, which is exciting. But yeah, thanks for touting that product.
Yes. Well, Allison, thanks for coming on. I loved getting to have this conversation in a public forum. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
You too. Thanks, Liz.
Welcome to Liz's House Hot Takes. This is where I take the lessons I've learned over the last 16 years of designing Greek houses and offer you my pro tips. Here's today's house hot take. Phasing is your secret weapon. You don't have to tackle every project in one giant renovation. Break it down into phases. Refresh the living room one year, update the dining hall next, and renovate the bathrooms after that. This approach keeps the house both livable and spreads out costs while still building excitement as each phase gets completed. Just like in your residential home, phasing makes big dreams feel more doable. Thanks for listening to another House Hot Take. For more inspiration, check out the PDR Interiors Instagram or TikTok. I'm Liz Toombs, and this is the Sorority Chat podcast. Catch you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're listening on a podcast platform, make sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode. And if you got something out of today's conversation, we'd love for you to leave us a 5-star review. It helps us reach more listeners just like you. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to check out this video right here or this one over here. And don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps us out. On that note, I'm Liz Toombs with Sorority Chat, and I'll see you on the next one. This podcast is produced by Collier Landry for Don't Touch My Radio. Copyright Liz Toombs.